The Lives of the Saints by Father Alban Butler, January 14th. St Sabas, Archbishop of Serbia. The public acts in the political and ecclesiastical life of St Sabas, like those of many other clerics, depended largely on political circumstances, particularly in the Balkans, where the civil and ecclesiastical powers were united, and where the meeting of different cultures took place. Sabbas was born in 1174 and was the youngest of the three sons of Stephen I, the founder of the Nemanid dynasty and the independent state of Serbia. At the age of 17, Sabas entered a monastery on Mount Athos, where his father joined him after his abdication in 1196. Together, they founded a monastery for Serbian monks called Hilandar, which is still today one of the 17 principal monasteries of the Holy Mountain. As abbot, Sabbas distinguished himself by his skill in educating young monks and by his tendency to favor the policy of gentleness. He devoted himself to translating books into the Serbian language, and a psalter and a ritual copied by his hand and signed thus are still preserved at Hilandar. I, the irresponsible and lazy monk Sabbas. Meanwhile, his brothers, Stephen II and Vulcan, made war on each other. When Sabbas returned to his country in 1207, he found it torn apart, civilly and religiously. The Serbs had been Christians for some time, but it was a nominal Christianity, without solid bases of doctrine and mixed with paganism. The clergy were few and generally poorly educated, because the Church had been governed from Constantinople, or from Okrida of Bulgaria, and the hierarchs of those nations had cared little for those they regarded as barbarians. So St Sabas, following the example of the ancient Russian monks and the Benedictines in the West, employed the monks he had brought with him from Hilandar in pastoral and missionary work. He settled in the monastery of Studenica, and from it he left to found small monasteries in suitable places so that the monks could go to preach in the cities. This did not mean that the ancient monk of Mount Athos had forgotten the need for solitude and contemplation. One can still see in the valley of Studenica, far above the monastery, the rocky hermitage to which St Sabas used to retire. What happened next and the order in which it occurred is difficult to determine. However, we will try to give a summary of the contradictory testimonies. Politically, it was advantageous for the Serbs to have their own bishops. Thus, Stephen II sent his brother Nicaea, where the Patriarch and the Emperor had taken refuge from the Frankish attacks on Constantinople. Sabbas won the favor of the Emperor, Theodore II Lascaris, who was related to the Numanides, and was appointed the first metropolitan of the new hierarchy. The Patriarch, Manuel I, was opposed to the appointment, but circumstances did not allow him to be obstinate in his position, and he himself consecrated Sabbas bishop in 1219. Sabbas returned to his homeland via Mount Athos, from where he took more monks and numerous books that had been translated in Hilandar, and immediately devoted himself to the organization of his church. It seems that by this time Stephen II, the first crowned, had already requested Pope Honorius II to recognize him as king. He had been crowned by a papal legate in 1217. However, his brother crowned him archbishop again in 1222, and one source states that on that occasion Pope Honorius sent a crown to Sabbas, who had informed the Holy See of his own episcopal consecration. In this way, Prince Sabbas, who as a young man had abandoned the court to become a monk, managed to consolidate, before he was 50 years old, the state that his father had founded. The means he used for this were the reform of the religious life of the people, the creation of bishops of his race, and the ratification of the sovereign dignity of his brother. St Sabas is the patron saint of Serbia, and the people attribute to him, as with other saints, some benefits in which he had nothing to do. Thus, for example, legend has it that St Sabas invented a plow that could be turned back at the edge of the field, and that he introduced the use of windows. The case is not unique. The fishermen of Sussex claim that St Wilfrid taught them to fish. The last years in the life of St Sabas were marked by a trip to Palestine and another to the Near East. The first seems to have been a pilgrimage, and the second an ecclesiastical mission. On returning from the second trip, he fell ill in Tirnovo, Bulgaria, where he died with a smile on his lips on January 14, 1237. The following year, his body was transferred to the Monastery of Miloševo in Serbia, where he remained until 1594. In that year, during political unrest, a Turkish Baja, Italian renegade, deliberately burned the relics. The Serbian Orthodox consider St Sabas not only as the founder of their national church, but also as the author of the separation from Rome. This would indeed be so if we were to consider things from the modern point of view, but the situation was very different at that time. The ecclesiastical authorities of Rome, Nicaea Byzantium, and Ochrida were at the same time civil authorities, and as such constituted a threat to the nascent Serbian state. King Stefan II and his brother, the Archbishop, had to maneuver skillfully. In any case, the schism separating the East from Rome did not seem definitive, and neither the southern Slavs nor many of the Franks were aware of a deep division between the Catholics and the Orthodox. In fact, St Sabas Prophytli, the Illuminator, is included in several Latin calendars, and the Catholic Byzantine Diocese of Krzewci in Croatia celebrates his feast day.